Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to NJ Thrive Small Business Webinars. Today is Tuesday, May 14th, and you are attending one of our weekly webinars created to help New Jersey small business owners start, grow, and thrive. My name is Uzma Sheikh. I'm a consultant here at NJSBDC. And what is NJSBDC? Well, we're a statewide program powered by the Small Business Administration, SBA, and partners to help small businesses in New Jersey with three main things. And those things are no cost small business consulting, training and events starting at $0, and exclusive small business resources. If you are new here, welcome. Thank you for attending your first webinar with NJSBDC, New Jersey Small Business Development Centers. If you have been attending our webinars, thank you so much for your support. We hope that you continue to support us. If you can see me and hear me okay, put a 1 in the chat. If there is noise in the background, I hope that you'll forgive me. There is construction going on. But yes, I'm seeing the ones come in. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Also, feel free to go in the chat and let us know where you're from or where in New Jersey you're coming from. And if you have anything that you'd like to share while you're attending or recommend that you attend the webinar, any referrals, things like that, or if you already have a small business, feel free to let us know and network. All right. So the webinar that you're attending is part of a webinar series, multi-session series that we've been doing since November of last year, November 2023. And that series started as how to register your business with $0 NJSBDC support with our support. And we felt there was a need to help aspiring entrepreneurs in New Jersey start, grow, and thrive with their small business, and hence this series was created. And ever since then, we've made good numbers. We've helped a good amount of small businesses or aspiring entrepreneurs get started with their small businesses. So that's always a good thing. And thanks for all your support. So on the agenda, we have a couple of headlines that we'd like to share with you. These are just some things that are happening in the small business community here in the state of New Jersey that you should be aware of, whether as an aspiring entrepreneur or an existing small business. Then we have our presentation and Q&A after. These are the three headlines of this week that we'd like to share. I will just go through them very briefly, and the links will be shared in the chat as well. Let me just take a look at our chat real quick. Okay, Camden, Union City, Monmouth County. Awesome. This is great. By the way, okay, Monmouth again. If you'd like everyone to see your responses, make sure that you're selecting everyone in the chat when you're sharing your message, not just hosts and panelists, unless, of course, it is meant for us. All right, so press release from SBA, U.S. Small Business Administration. This is press release. If you would, if you're a small business owner, this is one of the best resources that you should be checking every now and then. So one of the press releases that was published just a couple of days ago, SBA announces funding awards to 3 organizations to provide women veteran entrepreneurship training programs. All right, so $300,000 in funding for 3 organizations to deliver the WVETP program, which I just mentioned, Women Veteran Entrepreneurship Training Program, to local veterans. This is committed to honoring the services of over 2 million women veterans in the U.S., making sure that who are looking to start or grow a business. This funding wants to engage women veterans in entrepreneurship by helping them through the planning stages of a new business or finding new ways to grow their existing small business. And here are the awardees: Syracuse University, Onabin, and USA Veteran Business Resource Center. So if you are a women veteran or you know someone, feel free to share this information. Second is from Morris County Chamber of Commerce. This is an event that's happening, Women in Business Table Talk, happening on Friday, May 17th from 11 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. This is an in-person event at Park Avenue Club, Florham Park, New Jersey. This is a luncheon, table talk luncheon. And of course, it is a networking event. So if you'd like to attend, go to this page and there is an agenda here too, and you can register until actually tomorrow, Wednesday. Space is limited. There is a ticket fee, and you have to RSVP. Our state director and CEO, Kelly Brosna, unfortunately, the pictures are not loading right now, but one of the speakers, the host, is Kelly Brosna, our CEO and state director, who will be in attendance as well. And last is from NJBAC, New Jersey Business Action Center, Senator Troy Singleton, representing New Jersey's 7th Legislative District. This is a small business owner roundtable that's happening. It's an event as well on Friday, May 31st, 2024. If you'd like to attend, then fill out your information on this registration page. And this is the list of all the organizations that will be attending. Let's see. Of course, we will be one of them as well. All right, so this is all there is to it. This is a breakfast, networking, and a presentation that's happening, hosted by NJBAC. All right, as I mentioned, I will be sharing the links to all these articles again in the chat. Yep. All right. Things to keep in mind, some rules that we'd like you to follow. If you have any questions, put them in the Q&A box, not chat. We'll address them in the end. And if you have any concerns for NJSBDC, of course, us, feel free to email us at the email provided. Otherwise, we'll address all the webinar related questions here. If you would like to receive the slides that our presenter presents on, then please fill out our survey. It's really brief. Just provide feedback and you will receive it. Webinar is being recorded. It will be available on our YouTube channel as well as our video library. So today we have Vanessa Schwartz, our startup consultant. Vanessa's been doing this for the past 24 sessions, and today is 25th. NJSBDC's top business registration tips. So welcome, Vanessa. Thank you, and the stage is yours.
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Uzma. Thank you for all that great information. I'm going to share my screen. There we go. Hope everybody's doing well today. So thank you for joining. My name is Vanessa Schwartz, and whether you're here or someone who wants to think about taking that hobby to the next level, or if you're interested in pursuing a side hustle, or a professional in your own right who is ready to kind of grab the horns and try entrepreneurship, this is an important webinar to help you understand the business structure, business formation, how NJSBDC can help you. And if you have already gone ahead and formed that business, but don't know what to do with it, or don't know if you did it properly, and not quite understanding how the LLC and other business entities fall into the mix, this is a good webinar for you, and we're happy to assist you, and we'll get information to you on how you can request one-on-one counseling with one of our counselors to go over everything that's discussed today. Okay, so what to know about starting your new business. So we're going to talk a little bit about business structures. We're going to talk about the formation and registration process in New Jersey, a little bit about New Jersey state regulations and taxes when we're forming businesses, funding, cash management, all very important topics. And when it comes to starting a business in terms of your own investment into your business and whether outside financing might be necessary, additional needs that small businesses may need to look into, and we'll talk a little bit about that and what resources are available to you in New Jersey. And then where do we go from here? Next steps. What are your opportunities? What are your growth plans? What's your business plan? These are all topics that we can address and assist and help you with through your journey. So we're going to talk first a little bit about different business structures. In terms of structure, The simplest, most simple structure is the sole proprietorship. It is basically you, the person, deciding to operate a business or seek additional income, whether it be selling goods or providing services, and you are, say, interested in representing yourself other than just by your name, you can go ahead and you can file for a trade name. And that is done right at the county clerk's office. So you can name your business and you can apply for the trade name. It costs maybe about $50 or so. That trade name must be unique within the county, and it's done locally. It's, as we said, about $50. It's relatively inexpensive. There's not much more else you have to do with it except then to register that trade name with the Division of Taxation. But we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But in terms of the structure itself, it is one-time inexpensive fee. You don't need to get a special tax ID number for a sole proprietorship. For taxation purposes, you're more than welcome to use your Social Security number. If you would prefer, you can apply for that employer identification number from the IRS. We lately have seen more and more of that being done in order to protect your privacy and your security for your own security. It doesn't cost anything. You go to the IRS, you say, you go right online, I'm forming a sole proprietorship, I'd like an EIN to represent my business. You are welcome to do that, but you don't have to. You are welcome to use your personal bank account. It's acceptable for use in this type of business where you transact, you collect your fee, you can deposit the funds straight into your personal bank account. Someone can Venmo you the money. It's not an issue. You'll keep track of your income, of course, for tax purposes, but you don't need a separate business bank account. The tax return process is very simple. You take a Schedule C, which is an IRS tax filing, attach it to your personal income tax return, and you can reflect all your sales and expenses and ultimately your net income on that Schedule C. And that is how you'll pay your federal, state, and local taxes through your own personal tax return. There is no legal separation between yourself and the business. You are the business, you're one and the same. So the downside is that you have no protection in terms of liability. Your personal assets could be at stake. So if you're doing something that involves some risk, or there is some form of liability involved, and you were to unfortunately be sued, you are risking your own personal wealth, your own assets, your home. So that is the downside to a sole proprietorship. Now, next up, if you're actually interested in forming a business entity, the one that most closely resembles the simplicity of a sole proprietorship, but yet it gives you the liability protection of a business entity, is the limited liability company, the LLC. Very popular, very flexible business entity, relatively inexpensive to form, $125. It is all done online through the New Jersey portal, business portal. It is required then, though, to pay $75 per year to maintain your LLC. So as opposed to the sole proprietorship where there's no annual fee, in order to keep a LLC in good standing, you are required to pay $75 a year to maintain the LLC. You are required to have a tax ID number from the IRS. Again, it's called the EIN, Employer Identification Number. It can be applied for right online at the IRS website. It does not cost anything. I'll say that a million times in this presentation. Getting an EIN does not cost anything. It is free. Be careful. If you find a website that looks legitimate and you're applying for a tax ID number, and at the end of the process, it asks you for a debit or credit card, abort, close out. That is not the IRS. That is a third party. You do not have to pay for your tax ID. But for LLCs, it is required to get one. The banking is now a little more complicated. In order to keep the liability protection and to maintaining that in that spirit, we are required to have a separate business bank account for the sales and funds that are transacted through your business. So you would take your LLC certificate of formation, you'll take your tax ID, and you'll bring it to the bank, and they will open up the separate business account in the name of the business. What's nice about the LLC is that it's very flexible in terms of your taxes. You are, as an owner, allowed to choose how you wish to be taxed. If you're a single member LLC, meaning member means owner, the only owner, you are allowed, and it does default to the Schedule C tax filing. If you recall, the sole proprietorship uses the Schedule C. So single member LLCs are allowed to be taxed as if they were sole proprietors. And that is the Schedule C tax filing attachment to your personal income tax return. If you're more than one owner, the typical default is to the Form 1065. That's a partnership tax filing. You're not a partnership, you're a multi-member LLC, but you can be taxed as using that Form 1065. Again, that's the partnership tax filing paperwork from the IRS. Or whether you're a single owner, a single member, or a multi-member LLC, you can also be taxed as a corporation. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but just know that you have flexibility in terms of your taxation, and you do enjoy the limited liability protection when you choose the best business structure. The most secure of the business entities are the corporations. As you can imagine, corporations are more complicated to form. You must establish bylaws. You create a board of directors. You hold shareholder meetings. It's a little bit much when you're a small business, but it is done. There are reasons why small businesses may decide to incorporate rather than get their LLC. And that usually has to do with a couple of reasons. Liability protection being one, in that the corporation is the most secure of the business entities. Also in terms of fundraising, raising money for the company, financing, you are able to provide equity. You're able to provide shares to additional shareholders in order to capitalize the company better. And the thing to keep in mind is that, corporations are, they're subject to corporate tax rates. So when you hear about a corporate tax rate, that means that a separate business, a separate tax filing is done on behalf of the corporation. You record your sales, your expenses, and when you get to the net income line, the corporation has to pay a corporate tax on that income. Whatever is left over is your shareholder profits, and then any owners of the business would then take their profits and then have to pay taxes on those dividends. So it's often considered to be a double taxation, and it could be a penalty for a small business. So there are ways to get around that, which we'll talk about through using the S Corp tax designation. But just in terms of, again, business structures, you have the LLC, you have the corporation, and even with the sole proprietorship, all three, depending on whatever you choose, ultimately, just please know that at the end of the day, the last step to any business that you might form is to register with the Division of Revenue and Enterprise Services, and that is for tax purposes. And we'll talk again more about that. Okay, so this a little bit of information on the S corporation. The biggest takeaway I'd like for you to consider is that under an S corp, it is a tax designation, not specifically a legal business entity. So you're either a corporation that has incorporated and applied for the subchapter S under the IRS code to be tax designated as an S corp, or you are an LLC that chooses to be taxed as a corporation, and then of course you would apply for the subchapter S tax designation. So when someone says I want to be an S corp, that means you've either incorporated and became a corporation first, applied for the S corp tax designation, or as I mentioned, you are an LLC and you decide you want to be taxed as if you were an S corp. So just that's something to keep in mind. So the benefit of being an S corp as from a corporation standpoint is that you eliminate the double taxation and you don't have to worry about being taxed twice. The S corp basically allows the income to pass straight through to the shareholders, and that simplifies the tax process. And then if you're an LLC, if there is a certain threshold of income, you'll hear people say it's 60,000, it's 80,000. It really just depends. Once you get to a certain point, and this is something you would want to discuss with your an accountant, because it could also have something to do with your tax bracket, if you're filing, how you file, if you are filing jointly with the spouse or partner. You just want to, something that you'd want to double check, but there is a certain point in time as an LLC owner where it might be more tax advantageous for you to choose S corp tax status than the default self-employed individual, whether it be through partnership or through the Schedule C. And that's because as an S corp in tax treatment, you yourself as the owner can put yourself on the payroll and receive a W-2 from your company. And in doing so, you would thereby have the additional expense, lowering your net income. You would have withholding and taxes taking directly from your paycheck, and you'd be wearing two hats, one of the employer and of the employee. And the employer's payroll expenses are tax deductible. So that helps as well. And you don't pay self-employment tax on profits from the when you're taxed as an S corp. So in a certain formula that gets calculated, you can decide whether or not it is more tax advantageous for you to be taxed as an S corp than as either a Schedule C or a 1065. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the limited liability company, because that is the most popular and probably the most relevant of the business entities for the small business. So we say, get in touch with us, request counseling, speak to a counselor, get it right the first time. You do not have to pay a third party for what you should be able to do yourself. Having said that, we understand that it could be overwhelming and a little bit scary to be on a application. You want to make sure you get it right. So you have the best of all worlds. We'll walk you through it. We'll guide you. We'll guide you through the formation. We'll guide you through the registration and help you get your tax ID number. And our services are no cost to you. So the only cost would be for the state filing, which is the $125. Plus there's $350 processing for debit and credit and $1 processing for e-check. So while we're doing this with you, we make sure you understand all the terminology. Every question that's asked, we make sure that you understand why it's being asked. Make sure you know what to do with your paperwork, why it's important, where to put it, how to access it, because these documents come into play. Someone wants to see your certificate of formation. Someone needs to see your letter from the IRS. You have to show proof that you registered with the Division of Revenue and Enterprise Services. We want you to understand all your paperwork, understand your legal requirements, all your obligations. And, in doing so, it'll help you understand the importance of not just the business that you're engaging in, but the actual finance part of it, the actual structure part of it, what your responsibilities as the business owner are. And that goes into bookkeeping, that goes into managing your funds, managing your finances. So all of this is part of what our services provide, and we're happy to help you with it. And we just have an entire slide just dedicated to the fact that, remember, formation is just one part of the equation. Very often when you go ahead and hire a third person, like a LegalZoom, to do your formation, they don't provide the registration service, or maybe they charge extra for it and it gets missed. Very important that it's not sufficient just to form your LLC in New Jersey. You must then register it. It is a separate process. It's confusing. It can be. Many people miss that step. In other states, it's set up a little different. It's a little more, I think it could be a little more clear that you're forming and registering at the same time. In New Jersey, it is two completely separate events. The formation is the legal business filing for the LLC. And then you have to, if you're doing it on your own, there's a little button on the bottom that says continue for registration. And that's when you go and you actually answer all the questions through the state, make sure you know what your tax obligations are, make sure that you know what other additional things that you might need. And that's when you're legally allowed to actually transact business in the state. And that's after you've registered. That's when you are permitted to actually operate under the LLC. There's a new federal requirement called Beneficial Ownership Information Report. We're required now, all LLCs formed this year have 90 days from their registration to file with the Financial Crimes Network. And basically, it's a federal database that wants to see who is forming LLCs and who the owners are. If you formed your LLC prior to January 1st, 2024, you are required to go and register yourself in this database, but they are giving all former LLCs formed again before January 1st until the end of this year to get in there and register themselves as LLC owners. If you have questions about that, we can walk you through that as well. Okay. Now, you're going to need to have certain things when you form your LLC. You're going to need a unique business name in New Jersey. This is the link to search for availability. We'll be providing the slides, I think, if you fill out the survey, so you'll be able to search for a business name. You'll need your EIN, again, from the IRS, free, does not cost anything. There's some industry codes and classifications that are required when we're registering and forming. The NAICS is the North American Industry Classification System. I think that's what S stands for. And the New Jersey industry codes. For statistical purposes and to understand your business purpose, these codes identify what it is that you're doing and why you're forming your business. Registered agent. Every company, an LLC formed, is required to have a registered agent. You may be your own registered agent. You could put your information and your address, and you could be the person. New Jersey does allow for you to be your own registered agent. It has to be a physical property in New Jersey. It cannot be a P.O. box. It can't be, some mailbox on the side of a road. If you decide you would like to outsource the role of the registered agent, we can give you some referrals. There's a number of registered agent services in the state. There is a cost, depends on what you choose and what services are required that you would like, but at a minimum, I've seen it as little as $49 a year. If you just want to have another organization represent you as your registered agent, basically, the state has to have a physical location and a person responsible for receiving all mail that comes from the state. And that includes any kind of legal paperwork or summons or lawsuit papers. If they ever had to deliver, if you were being sued or if anything was happening, there has to be an address of record. If you're more than one person, you need to have an operating agreement. If you're a multi-member LLC, the bank will require you to provide an operating agreement. It doesn't necessarily have to be done by a lawyer, but you may want to consider seeking legal counsel if there's several of you and you may not know each other very well and you want to have it all done correctly. The important factors to consider in an operating agreement are your capital contributions into the business, what your profit shares might be, what your roles might be, as well as if you were to dissolve the business, say tomorrow, how would you basically distribute the assets? How would you dissolve the business? Who gets what? So it's important to have something in writing so that you're protecting yourself, basically. And plus it's required once you're more than one person. This is the cost to form an LLC. So you'll have to have your debit or credit card available. You can pay by e-check. And then names, addresses, social security numbers, and the ownership percentages of all the members you'll need to know prior to getting online and getting all the formation and registration work done. Another thing you'll need to know is how you wish to be taxed. So remember, LLCs are allowed to choose their taxation method. You can choose the Schedule C, if you're the single member, or keep it simple. If you're more than one person, again, it's the partnership 1065. Or either way, you may choose to be taxed as a corporation. And we discussed that, and that's filing the 1120 and then selecting S Corp designation, tax designation. You'll need to know if the sale of your goods or services are subject to state tax, sales tax, excuse me. What are you selling? Certain items, consumer products, are subject to sales tax. As consumers, we all know, we go to the store, we buy something, we pay sales tax. Now that you're the business owner and you're selling the goods, you are responsible for collecting sales tax from your consumer, holding the sales tax, and then remitting it to the state at the end of each quarter. We can give you a whole tutorial on how that gets done and explain and help you with that process. Same for services. Most services are not subject to sales tax, but some are. So there are resources through the state that can tell you all the goods and services and whether they're taxable or exempt from sales tax. But it's your responsibility to know that, and we can help you make sure that you're aware of what your responsibilities are as the business owner. Also, if you are potentially required to collect sales tax, you might be eligible as well to make exempt purchases. That means as you purchase the inventory or the cost of goods, anything that goes physically into the product, you yourself as the business owner can use an ST3 and ST4. Those are the resale certificates and the tax exempt certificates to eliminate your burden to pay sales tax on any items that is being bought to create or to resell to the end user. So we can go over all of that. We do that quite often with our companies that come in and request counseling. We go over the whole sales tax equation and how to go about doing that. Some businesses require additional registrations and certifications. You might think of a contractor. General contractor has an additional responsibility and additional registration through the state that has to be filled out. Food safety certifications are required if you're handling food. Home health aides require a separate certification. So you would have to kind of know what's going on with what you're doing to make sure there isn't anything else. And that's another thing that we can look into with you. We can give you the resources. We look at the business at New Jersey Business Action Center. They have a licensing guide. We make sure that you're aware of if there's anything else you need. And you'll have to identify a bank where you'd like to do your business banking. Very often we say start with where you normally bank, take a look, see if they can offer you something. Say, hey, we have our personal banking here. We'd like to open a business bank account. You don't want to pay fees. The bottom line is you don't want to pay any monthly fees to maintain a small business bank account. So find out either whether you need a personal if you need to have your, say, your personal accounts there in order to have free business banking, or if you need to have a certain minimum, or I know my business banking requires that I use the debit card 3 times a month and I don't get charged fees. So you can have conversations to find out what is best for you. These are a page of links that you'll see. This is what we were talking about with the business licensing through the Business Action Center. You can see here's a licensing and certification guide. And you just kind of like search by putting what it is you're doing, and they tell you, hey, who else do I have to call, or what do I need to do? Let's see what else might be useful. This is just the sales tax requirements, income tax. Remember, you're self-employed, so you're going to have, it's going to be different. Instead of having your money withheld out of your paychecks each month or every 2 weeks, you're going to be required to pay estimated income taxes on your profit. So that's something you can set up with the state. It's something you could set up with the IRS. You could talk to your accountant about it. You will not wait till April 15th to hand over all your income taxes to the state and federal government. They don't allow it, and you don't want that, because then you can be in a lot of trouble and owe all this money. So it's good to understand that there will be estimated income taxes to be paid when you're self-employed. And then if you're hiring employees or independent contractors, we can talk a little bit about the differences between a payroll and the W-9 1099, which is your independent contractor setup. And if you have questions about insurance, workers' compensation, these are all topics that we can discuss. We also, just so you know, when it comes to prepping and planning and putting your plan together, we will clearly review a business plan with you, give you some guidance there. Also, part of the business planning is making sure you have enough funding, startup costs. Make sure you understand what your startup costs are. What do you need to actually open the door? Do you need outside financing? We can introduce you to lenders. We can help you with your projections. Lenders typically want to see a business plan and a 12-month projection of your income. So, we'll make sure that you understand what the lender is looking for. And it's really important, I think, as business owners, that you have basic understanding of financial statements. What is an income statement? What is a balance sheet? What's the difference? How do I keep my books? What do I do? These are all very important, because in order to be successful, you want to make sure at the end of the day, you are earning more than you're spending. And that's the profit equation. You want to make sure that what you're doing is going to yield you a return. And so, as much as it's probably the boring stuff, and it's not the stuff that is enjoyable to you because you probably have some great talent and there's something that you're doing in your business that is your passion, the expenses and the income statement and all of this boring stuff is all part of it. But if you're going to be successful, there's going to have to be at least, a piece of you that as a business owner that's going to have a handle on this type of stuff. You can certainly outsource things. You don't have to be your own accountant. You don't have to be, you can't be. If you're not a lawyer, you can't be your own lawyer. But an understanding is going to go a long way. And this goes to say, what other needs are there that you might need? We're going to tell you, look, you need to talk to an accountant. This is a question for a lawyer. Certainly the more you can do on your own, the better, and use us as business mentors. We're no cost. There are lots of actually free services out there. SCORE, SBDC, there's the SBA also funds a women's center in New Jersey that gives counseling. You find what's available to you, but there will be times when, as a small business, you may have to spend money on certain items because we're not going to be your accountant, we're not going to be your lawyer. Insurance, I always say, if you can talk to an insurance agent, they're trying to sell you something, let them educate yourself, see what they have to say. Put it together, talk to a couple of insurance agents, make sure you're doing right by yourself in terms of insurance. And lenders are typically very, very helpful in the small business community. The SBA lenders we work with, the banks, they offer a lot of services. They offer counseling, some in their own right. We work with them, or they'll refer you over to us. They'll sit with you and they'll give you as much info as they can. Ultimately, it's going to be up to you to put your plan together. It's going to be up to you to put your projections together. But they obviously would like to do business, and they'll help as far as they can. And we do have counselors on staff who are more marketing and social media focused. So keep that in mind. That's not my area of specialty, but we do have counselors that you can speak to that is more their area. And we do state certifications. We can help you get your woman-owned business, woman, minority. We have veteran, disabled veteran, and LGBTQ plus New Jersey state certifications. We can walk you through that process, what it means. If you're interested in contracting and procurement, that's a good step to try to obtain a New Jersey state certification. And NJEDA, also great resource, state resource for grants and low interest loans and tax incentives and programs. They basically put together programs with funds that come from the state to help small businesses. So if you need help with those applications, we can certainly, we've helped businesses navigate that as well. Okay, so this is the QR code and links if you want to request counseling. The top QR code is more for if you're somebody who has not yet formed, has not yet registered, and you want to kind of streamline straight to our startup group. In my department, I suppose you can come straight to us this way. If you're already in business and you want to work with your home SBDC center, there have 11 centers in the state, and you want to request counseling, the second QR code and link will take you to your local SBDC, and you'll be assigned a counselor as well. So either way. And with that, we can turn it over to questions. If you have questions, you can put the questions in the Q&A, and we'll see if we can get those answered.
Thank you so much for that. All right, so Vanessa, before we go right into the questions, let me just, and this will give our attendees, our audience, an opportunity to put down their questions in the Q&A box. So just a couple of reminders before we get into that. And one thing that I need to address, so that is the survey link. So on our end, to Isaiah and Karen, who mentioned that the survey link is leading to the slides that Vanessa just presented. For some people that is working fine, so maybe try again later on. If not, then we can try to work this out later on, but we'll definitely make sure that that's fixed. Let me see. So please try again and let us know because one of our webinar assistant just tried and it is leading to the slides. So maybe there's some just a gap, something that's happening. All right, so please put your questions in the Q&A box. Anything else that goes in the chat. Just a reminder, this webinar is being recorded. It will be available on our YouTube channel as well as our video library. We will show those pages afterwards. And if you have any questions that are non-Vanessa, non-startup related, please feel free to go to the second link as Vanessa mentioned. That would be just njsbdc.com and regular request counseling. All right, so let's get to the questions and we will get to the questions in the order that were asked. First is from Sanam, who asks, I want to open an LLC and one of my partner is outside of USA. Would that work? Or is she saying we can do it? I'm not sure if that's a question, but how would that work, Vanessa?
Yeah, you can. LLC owners can be outside the country as long as they have a tax ID. So if you don't have a social security number, you would have to apply for an ITIN. It's an international tax identification number. But yes, that is yeah. And for it to be in New Jersey, LLC, as long as somebody's in New Jersey or you have your registered agent in New Jersey, that should be fine.
Next question is also from Sam, who asks, will you provide a tax person who can help us?
So no, not anybody who is going to give you personal tax counsel or accounting counsel, but all those items that were discussed in terms of their factual information and resources. Yes, I mean, ask us if you try us first, because some things we can talk about that's just generic information that we're aware of. When it comes to personal tax advice on your personal tax situation, you would have to speak to your own accountant.
For sure. Next question is from Karen. Karen says, I have worked with Vanessa and she helped me from start to finish. Yay. Is there any funding for businesses looking for a physical office?
Yeah, the NJEDA has some lease, I don't have it off the top of my head, but NJEDA has grant for small businesses who are looking to sign a lease or expand their current lease, right? Check out NJEDA, the lease improvement. That's a generally great site to make sure you're on those email lists, that you're constantly being notified, that you're in the know when it comes to the NJEDA. And we just recently did a webinar last week, and it's on the library. It's if you go to the NJ, go to our website, go to events, and you look at the Thrive. I think it's under NJ webinar, NJ Thrives webinar. We have a replay. We just had we had some representatives from the NJEDA to talk about some of those programs.
Yep, exactly. I was going to mention those too. And I will echo the same sentiment that Karen that you just mentioned. NJEDA was one of our partners, and we have a partnership where we can exchange referrals, client referrals, whether it's us referring clients to them or them referring clients to us. Also through our webinars, we always share a lot of their information, program information. So you'll see that on our webinars, we're constantly sharing their press releases, headlines, and announcements that are happening. So please go to NJEDA. I believe it is now njeda.gov. They have become a state entity. So let me just try njeda.gov. Yep, it is njeda.gov, and you will find mostly all the information that you can find on, small businesses, whether it's just public information or whether it's, capital access fund or incentives, whatever it is that you're looking for. So definitely check them out. We'll also just put that link in the chat. Okay, next question is from Sanem. Can we open 2 LLCs at the same time?
Yeah, you can open as many LLCs as you want. The only thing to consider is if whatever the business line is, or whatever the different sources of revenue, consider whether or not it just makes sense to keep it all under one LLC umbrella. Because remember, the LLC is the legal business name under which you can operate as many different types of businesses really as you want, as long as you are properly representing them. So if you would like to create an alternate business name under your LLC umbrella to do something completely different, you can do that. It costs $50 for 5 years to keep an alternate business name. But everything would roll up to one Schedule C. You'd only have to pay $75 once, to one LLC once a year, because remember, it can get expensive. The only thing you have to really keep in mind is, remember, anything under the umbrella of the LLC would be at risk. So if one of your business ventures is a little bit more risky, and you don't want to actually have an issue where if something were to happen and say risk losing the assets held in the other part of the business, you just have to make sure either you're properly insured or completely insured, or that you don't want to commingle the liabilities. And a perfect example of that is if, a lot of times you make a real estate investment and you buy a piece of property and it's under an LLC, you wouldn't under that same LLC run an Uber business. Just wouldn't make sense. You would risk losing. I mean, this defeats the whole purpose. I would keep that Uber business under separate LLC just for, basic liability protection.
Yep. Next question is all right, so we don't have any questions in the Q&A box anymore. Let me just take a quick look in the chat to see if there's anything. Okay, we have a question from Anana who asks, any specific advice for assistance for nonprofits?
If you want to talk to somebody, if you want to talk to me, make an appointment with me to talk about your nonprofit, we can give you general technical advice or counsel. We don't do much more than that. We could help you set up, we could help you incorporate the nonprofit. We can give you a basic consultation on some things to consider. I have some links that I like to send. I have incorporated businesses that have decided to as nonprofits. But remember, the thing about a nonprofit is the incorporation is just the first piece. And fine, that's something I'd be happy to help you with. You'd have to then the second piece of it, which we don't get into, is the filing for the tax exemption. There's a federal filing to apply for tax exemption to receive that nonprofit status, and would give you the links, and you can look into other resources, but we don't go into that kind of detail.
Thank you. Next question. Are there any forms or permits required to start a home bakery?
Yes, there are. They just recently passed the cottage law. And you're probably aware of this. It was up until maybe about a year ago, you weren't even allowed for profit to bake in your home and sell baked goods. New Jersey, I think, was the only state left that did not allow that. Now they do. And so there is an application for home-based baked businesses, bakery businesses, if that makes sense. We can help looking to dig that up and make sure you have the resources and fill that out.
Got it. Let's see, anything else? All right, so we have a concern. All right, I will reply to that privately. All right, so the link has been fixed. Use the link that I just recently shared and let me know if that's working. The survey is working. It should be working and it should lead you to the slides that Vanessa just shared. All right, so I think that concludes our questions because we don't have anything else. Anil did ask, need to know if you allow in-meeting seminars too. I'm not sure what that means, Anil. If you mean in person, we try to have in-person workshops. There are in-person webinars, not webinars, in-person meetings and workshops that do happen throughout the state. This topic particularly, Vanessa, I believe we had a couple over the last 6-7 months. Like we had 2 in-person registration workshops, right?
You know what? I'm sorry. Yes, we've done in-person, we've done some in-person LLC, new business startups where we've done the startups in person. And I'm sorry, I got distracted because I just saw that there might have been a problem with the QR code for requesting for counseling. You know what, that's something that maybe can be done offline
Yep.
from Fernando.
All right, so
But yeah, and I'm sorry, it was, yes, of course, each center runs in-person events. You can check with your local center, find out the one that's closest to you or when you request counseling. There's also the webinars, but there have been, NJSBDC does plenty of, I mean, it's plenty, meaning coming back from COVID, it's finally, I think, gotten to a better place. And I don't know if you would agree, Usma, where there's more in-person events.
yep. And I don't think we are planning any in-person on this topic, any in-person workshops on this topic particularly in anytime soon, but definitely always keep an eye out on our events calendar. We're always, doing something, and our entire network on state is always doing something. All right, thanks for letting us know. It is working. Perfect. So now let me just go and share with our audience our NJSBDC website. Okay. So this is the webpage, our website. And the first thing that pops up is this newsletter pop-up. So if you would like to keep in the know of our news and training and events, resources, definitely sign up and make sure you're registered. This is njsbdc.com, one of our resources, of course. One of the most premier resources in the state of New Jersey, because we have all sorts of things like events that are always happening, resources and data, the toolkit that we've combined and compiled. So whether it's state resources, federal, local, we have most of the websites and the go-to links for almost all of them. Then we have our podcast, a new business show that's coming up. So stay tuned. Then what else? The resources hub, exactly. Next, I want to show one of the pages that I want to highlight is this one. So go to events, Enjoy the Rise Small Business Webinars. This is the video library that comes up. If you would like to go and look at any particular topic that comes up, you should definitely visit this page. We have all of Vanessa's sessions that she's done on this topic. Then we have procurement, we have certifications, we have SBIR, SCR, we have the one webinar that Vanessa mentioned that we just recently did with NJEDA is this one, Grow Your Small Business with NJEDA Grants and Loans. That is where 2 representatives from NJEDA talked about the offerings that they have currently available. what else? The next page that I also want to share is this one, all statewide events. So the map that if you remember from the slides that I was sharing earlier in the beginning, we have 11 regional centers throughout the state of New Jersey. And this is the page where all of those centers share their events. Whether it is in person or online, it'll tell you. So, and if there is a fee or if it is free, it will also tell you. So just take a look. One more thing that I'd like to mention is that we do provide events in Spanish. Just again, here's an example of one of those events. We also provide counseling in Spanish. So if you'd like to speak to a Spanish-speaking counselor, just let us know and we will connect you with someone who can help you. All right, so the process, I just saw something come in from Gina. How long does it take to assign a counselor? So the process, the way it works is that you request counseling, you sign up, you register, and the request goes through our system. One of the consultants, if it's Vanessa and her team or someone else from our regional center, they will see the request come in, and they will, within 24 to 48 hours, they will assign you to a consultant and they will reach out to you, whether it's via phone or email. They will reach out to you to schedule.
Not to interrupt.
No, please go ahead.
I you were probably just about to get to this. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
So you'll get assigned. When that actual meeting takes place depends on yours and the counselor's mutual ability to find a time that works. So it doesn't mean that you'll get the consultation within 24 to 48 hours.
Yep.
You'll get the process, you'll get contacted and you'll start the conversation of when might be the best time to meet. I mean, it could be within a week to 2 weeks before the counseling session actually happens, depending on everyone's availability.
Exactly. Good point, Vanessa. All right, and I think that is all that I want to share about our website. So let me just then move forward with our slides. So upcoming webinars, we have this Thursday on May 16th, part 2 happening of the credit repair series that we did earlier in, I believe, March or April with Ozzy Lorenko, one of our NJSBDC capital team consultants. And this is, as I mentioned, part 2. So oops, sorry, where did it go? This is part 2, fortifying your financial future, advanced credit management. As I mentioned, happening May 16th, our usual time, 12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. If you attended the first part, definitely attend this part 2. If you did not have a chance to attend part 1, you have about 2 days to go back and watch the first webinar, again, available on our video library, and then attend on Thursday for part 2. All right, so this brings us to the end of our webinar. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you so much, Vanessa, for always doing these webinars with us, for us. And yeah, hope that you can all attend our Thursday webinar and other webinars. Thank you all so much for attending. We always appreciate your feedback and stay tuned. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. Have a good day.